Bearcat Bounce Podcast, back at it again. As always, I am Brent Young. It is a Monday, so that means it is time for me to be joined by two highly esteemed colleagues, two big-time taker-inners of spring football practice number one, and for one of them, practice number two. And of course, those invested highly still as Wes Miller season one heads into big time win or go home March fashion. That's right. No better time for the Danco transmission BVP Bearcat Bounce Podcast. That means it's time to bring in Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel. Aaron, Chad, how are we?
After that introduction, you did actually. I think you topped out on your audio with the with your initial intro. Things are going well, man. I mean, the weather's been abnormal.
Well, don't jinx it. It's gonna get cold again, tomorrow.
I can't jinx it if it's already in place, man. Come on now.
I agree.
But yeah, been doing all right.
Good. Got a haircut, or maybe it's old, or
no haircut, beard trim. Got it all taken care of Friday.
Looking smooth.
Appreciate
Chad,
it.
how are we?
It's been a busy day, boys. It's been a busy day. Had spring practice in the morning, a little lunch with my man Justin Williams. Had a little Adriaticos for lunch.
Oh.
And then back for basketball. Little Wes Miller media session. Got to stick around for a couple minutes of basketball, and then had to head home, spend some a little QT with the wife on her birthday, some dinner, a little ice cream cake. That's my wife doesn't mess with cake. She likes ice cream cake.
Dairy Queen or Kroger?
Cold Stone Creamery.
Oh,
she doesn't mess around.
You fancy, huh?
Look, man, she's been through hell and back. If she wants the good ice cream cake, she gets the good ice cream cake.
No judgment here.
Ice cream and cake do the ice cream and cake,
Right.
That's
red velvet cake, strawberry ice cream, a little chocolate on top.
Oh,
pretty good.
Red and black. Bearcats always in forever, like our man Daryl T. Hill says. Daryl, how are we? And that's Tim. Thanks for asking me how I am. I'm doing all right. Quite excited. March is simply my favorite month of the year, and for certain reasons, different here and there. But Chad, as you mentioned, today was a day that started with football and then bleeded into basketball, and now rings up with the BVP. So that's the order we're going to do here on the BVP. But before we mention that, we do have to mention the last time the Bearcats took the hardwood. They came up short. A valiant effort. We're going to touch on it later. And, of course, what's to come, some observations from there and for the near future. But that means you head to Danco Transmission because they fell 76-71. That means 71 points for the Bearcats. You go to Danco, anything over $100. Mention the BVP, mention Chad, mention Aaron, mention Jarrett Hensley. Put them on a poster. You get $71 off. Anything over $100. Big time deal, like always. But we got to bring up the thing first. What happened on Saturday? You both were in attendance. It was a beautiful, glorious day
in Nippert Stadium. I mean, that was the highlight right there.
Boom.
Get that message about 9:00 Saturday morning. No bubble. Nippert, let's go.
Ooh,
so
baby.
I loved it.
Lock and load. Aaron, Chad, you guys were there. I got an invite to go to a basketball game, and I went to the basketball game.
So. Oh, see, we assumed since it's like wedding season now, right?
No. Maybe close.
For those looking to cut a corner, save a buck, I feel like it's the beginning of wedding season.
Right. No, so I did get a wedding invitation in the mail, and I got a little nervous because it's a November wedding. But get this, November 12th, Bearcats play Friday, November 11th against ECU. What a deal. But no, yeah, I went to I was in West Lafayette at the Indiana-Purdue game. old buddy of mine used to play for the Boilermakers. He was like, "Hey, let's go check it out." I said, "Why not?" And went down there. Pretty good game. Great atmosphere.
Who's paying you to talk about Indiana and Purdue?
Quite a few people, to be honest. But you guys were at a beautiful locale, one that is filled normally with a rousing group of fans. Huge atmosphere. But on Saturday, it was a new book, Chad. You mentioned that a couple times to Luke Fickle. What were your guys' thoughts on the beginning of the book in spring practice, day one? We're going to talk on day one for a second because, Chad, you're at day two. We're going to dive further into that. But day one, Aaron, go ahead and start off with you. Just kind of observations that you were able to take in. A couple of days removed now. What kind of stuck in your mind since then?
So one of the things that kind of stuck out was just how many guys weren't there from last year. I know that Chad and I talked about it on the nightcap, but it was just crazy to look around and not see a Desmond Ritter, not see, Alec Pierce or a Darian Beavers or a Maije or a Sauce or a Kobe. I mean, when you lose 30 seniors, there's definitely a facelift of sorts. Mm-hmm. And to see, what we would generally see last year in like the last 10, 15 minutes of practice, but it was these guys now as the guys. So it was just kind of, I don't know, I guess kind of a shock at first to just really see this team executing without all those guys. That said, there were a couple guys that stood out. I mean, we talked about it with like Jaheim. Looks like he's really filled out. One of the guys that we didn't talk about the other night was Ryan Coe, the kicker, who he wasn't far from us when Chad and I and Justin were all standing there, and he looks like a guy that I would not want to take a hit from. He's thick.
He looks like a linebacker. Like it's a big, strong dude.
How does his leg look?
They haven't really kicked yet.
Okay, fair.
There's been punting. They've done punting special teams work, but we haven't seen them. Well, and part of that is they're not in pads and stuff yet. So you're not gonna go through the motions on field goal without guys being able to try to rush. So we've seen his leg before practice. Looks very strong. We've not seen any live action yet from the kickers. We'll get there.
JQ, big guy as advertised. Nick Hardner or Mardner. Nick Mardner, again, big,
large human
as advertised.
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
think who was the last receiver here that was quite that long? I mean,
maybe McHale. McHale wasn't as tall.
Yeah, right.
He had good length though.
Right.
I don't remember anybody that looks like Nick Mardner does. Like most of the receivers,
he's an alien.
Come up to like the middle of his helmet. Like he's half a helmet taller
at least
than pretty much everybody. I mean, he's
including the secondary.
Yeah. Once he figures it out, like, and he's already made a couple catches just in 2 days.
Right.
Where you're like, oh, okay. Me likey. Like this adds an element that they haven't had in the past. So
I mean, like a Malik Mudge, or however you exactly said his name. He was kind of the bigger variety, but more of a tight end out there running routes. Is this like a Josh Wiley on the outside?
You have to see him. Like it's different.
Right.
It's different. Like just his length and overall size stands out immediately. Like he's one of those that your eyes are instantly like, who's that? What's that all about?
For sure.
It's not normal.
Like, especially when you see like all the receivers huddled up and everything, and he's just elevated.
He's literally a half a helmet taller than
wild.
It looks like when Metz got here and we weren't used to that.
Right.
And there would be all these 6'5" guys, and then Metz, whose chin was at all the top of their helmets.
Yeah.
He kind of has that much of a size differential. And even Blue, who's, a good 6'5",
big, yeah,
is, noticeably shorter. Noticeably shorter.
So strange.
Okay. Aaron, I know your eyes then gravitated once you got over the new initial feel of things, and I know you were wanting to get a good look at the quarterbacks.
Yes, sir.
So your takeaways, your drawbacks from both Ben Bryant and of course Evan Prater and Brady Lichtenberg's getting his name tossed around a little bit too, but obviously more to come from him. But as far as the big two with Ben Bryant and Evan Prater,
it was the first day of practice. Let's put it that way. Both guys looked like they had to shake a little bit off and kind of get into the flow of things before they actually got locked in.
Right.
There was a lot of just short to intermediate passing going on. And even intermediate, I think, is probably a stretch for a lot of the early initial passes from either quarterback. And then they tried to air it out deep, and both quarterbacks were sailing receivers. But then they got into their groove a little bit, and both guys were able to make some long, deep connections, and they were able to both have passes, I'd say over 30, 35 yards. But you're on mute, Chad.
They had a little back and forth where it was like big play, big play, big play, where they were kind of
towards the end,
one up on each other towards the end on Saturday, where you could tell they were warmed up and finally in a rhythm. Because day one for quarterbacks, especially this situation, where they're neither have really played here. Ben has a full game under his belt, but they're both trying to win this job.
Yeah. So
you come out a little overamped.
Right.
But once they settled in towards the back half of practice, both looked pretty good. Today was a different story.
Oh, we're gonna dive into that here very shortly. Aaron, the new coaches, any of them really kind of catch your eye as far as
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
It was.
I know the answer, but
of course you do. Everyone knows the answer. But seeing Kerry Combs back at Nippert and in his element, if you will,
right?
Just, I don't know how the guy ever has a voice ever. It kind of reminds me of what was that coach that was at VCU for a while? Was that
Shaka?
Yeah. I just still remember him as the VCU guy.
Now he has hair and coaches at Marquette.
It's been like 4 other jobs since VCU.
That's how I remember him. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it was fantastic to see him back on the sideline. I got to introduce myself to him and catch up with him for a bit. So yeah, that was who I was most excited to see. I know that as we were leaving, Chad and Justin got a chance to talk with some of the other coaches that I have yet to meet. I didn't know Walt as he was walking by. Cummings, I didn't know him when he was walking by. So it'll take me a second to get in the groove with some of those guys, but I did want to seek out Kerry, as my dad graduated a couple of years from above him at Collier. My aunt graduated with him, and they lived on the same street, as I came to find out after practice. So I'll have to be mentioning all that to him next time I talk to him.
Oh, there we go. So Collier back then? Was it a big school? I'm just trying to think. I mean, they had to have at least bumped into each other, known each other.
Well, I mean, living on the same street, it was in a neighborhood. It wasn't like a big long road or anything that they lived on. So yeah, I imagine that. I would think that Collier would have been probably pretty big back then. Although I'm pretty sure back then Northgate Mall may have been an airstrip, which was a thing. But
it's what we can call it. What whenever we interview Kerry, it'd be like coffee with Combs or something along those lines. Could be nice. A little ad for him.
Pretty sure coffee with is taken.
Yeah, but that's kind of, it's a little bit more filtered one. This is that's the decaf version. We've got the caffeinated, unfiltered version over here.
Leaded, full flavor.
Exactly, full flavor. Aaron, wrap up. Give me one play, one big thing that you grabbed from Saturday that the fans will just be like, yes, that is awesome. Aaron Smith told me this on the VBP from Saturday's practice.
My favorite play all day was just in some positional drills, and it was Ken Willis jumping at the sideline, making a one-handed grab over his head, just reaching up and snagging it one-handed. We don't necessarily expect to see those types of plays from true freshmen, much less true freshmen coming off an injury. So for him to be able to –
such a Colerain homer.
Listen, I grew up in the area, man, but it happened right in front of us too. Like, I mean, we weren't privy to what was happening on, the other end of the field. At least it wasn't, right in your face quite the same. So that was probably the biggest play that I saw that I liked.
I mean, that is interesting too, because cornerback obviously has been discussed everywhere. It's a position kind of open, obviously, with two monsters going off to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
If these players that are getting these reps in spring ball, if they make plays like that, no reason why they can't use that to propel themselves during the offseason and at least get a shot. Special teams, work your way up, a la Sauce Gardner, things of that sort.
Right.
So that brings us to today. Aaron, you're back in Athens, so that means Chad, you were repping the BCJ at practice today.
As I will every day.
Right.
You guys are there when it's convenient.
Oh, what? I'd be there every day if I could.
2.5 hours. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you still have a place in Cincinnati. I don't want to hear that.
For like a week. Everything's boxed up.
Yeah, I was there today.
So, was it first? My first question to you is this: you always kind of want to take in kind of just warm-ups as well, just kind of how the team looks warming up and who's taking the leadership during that. It's obviously Brady being the vocal leader, trying to get everyone loosened up and everything. But did you kind of sense the same feel as there was on Saturday, kind of leading into this one, or was the same vibe and the same momentum there?
Yeah, the energy is almost always good. Like there are very few days. Maybe you'll get a couple days at higher ground where you can tell like it's, day 13.
Mundane, yeah.
Yeah, and it's Monday, day 13. Everybody just returned from campus. They're kind of dragging ass a little bit. That's not how things are going right now. And there's a lot of guys that feel like, they got a shot that maybe in the past didn't have a shot. So the energy level is definitely very good. I think I have a new man crush on defense.
Oh man. Can I take a guess based off of a few podcasts that you talked about, a few other
kid that started to flash in bowl practice.
Yes.
And
then I know
continuing.
The answer. Yep.
Go ahead.
Leroy Bowers.
Yeah.
Oh. And the thing about Leroy, man, we've mentioned it before. When you start making yourself known in special teams, you start to become admired by everyone and doing flashes here and there. So, Chad, what happened on Monday that continued to develop that man crush?
But before he gets there, I just want to say I think Kerry was probably on Leroy more than anybody during positional drills on Saturday.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's also
see something.
It's also in part because he's never done what they're asking him to do right now. Mm-hmm. So I've written about it a little. I want to expand on it a little bit more. He's a sniper by trade, $1. There's no room at the end at that position right now because you have Deshaun Pace and you have Ty Van Fossen. So they decided to start playing around, toying with how to get him on the field. And with as much turnover as they've had in the secondary, the thought was, let's try him this spring as a nickel.
Right.
Normally, when you think of nickel, you think of slot corner, right? Like
Arquan
smaller, undersized. Well, but Arquan really wasn't Arquan was an outside guy, outside corner that was playing nickel because Sauce and Kobe were there.
Right.
Well, when Malik Rainey, 5'9", shifty, small, like able to keep up with these little slot receivers. I get the sense that Mike Tressel prefers zone. They didn't have a choice but to play, press man last year, because if you didn't play press man with that group, you're an idiot.
You're wasting talent. Yeah.
Yeah. So as they're developing, I think we're going to see a little bit more zone. When you look at a guy like Leroy Bowers, he's more of a safety than he is.
Played safety in high school.
Yes. And he was going to play that, hybrid linebacker safety if he was the dollar.
Right.
So now they're looking and seeing, what does it look like if we get him on the field with Pace and Van Fossen?
Right.
And essentially, in a lot of ways, what you're playing is a 3-4.
Right.
With 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers, 2 of them that are coverage backers, basically, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting schematically. And when you watch him play, he had one today, Brent. Brady Lichtenberg's playing quarterback. They're in team drill. And Brady stands back in the pocket for a second, and he breaks to scramble to his left. And Bowers is in coverage in like a zone right in the middle of the field.
Right.
Remember the what was it, the DeBlanco, or was it Huber that had the delayed blitz?
They both had them at certain times last year, but yeah. I know what you're talking about.
He just, the second that he read that Lichtenberg was breaking the pocket, he hit the gas. And it looked like somebody shot him out of a cannon. Yep. And Brady got the ball off before he got, you're not allowed to hit the quarterback anyway.
Right.
But it was just one of those, like, a couple times, like you saw Brian Cook just explode in the open field.
Yep.
Wiggins, you had seen it before with him. Pace, we've seen it a couple times with him.
Right.
And this was Bowers, like, putting his stamp on, I got the gas. Like, if I'm coming after you, I'm coming after you. And it was like, you get kind of like, oh, they got a new toy. They got a new toy. That, think how good you have to be for Luke Fickell to say, look, we're trying something completely different that's out of our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good you are. We have to get you on the field. And that's kind of what they're doing with Leroy right now.
So my thought on that is the fact that both Leroy and Pace played safety in high school. They both have those coverage traits to them.
Sure.
Pace was great in coverage last year. I think if he didn't lead the team in interceptions, he was tied for first. Have to look up that stat real fast, but I mean, so it's not like you're telling, Joel DeBlanco and Will Huber. I'm sure they'll try their hardest to do it to get back there in coverage. But I mean, you've got 2 guys that are used to playing coverage up there and kind of like a 3-4 look, like I think you mentioned in the first practice notes. My next question is this: do you think this is also goes hand in hand just a little bit with the fact that there were some games, including the Cotton Bowl as well, where they did give up quite a lot of yardage on the ground, where this gives you the chance to have another player who kind of might be a little bit more of a headhunter, a little bit more of, like a missile out there, a linebacker hybrid.
Yeah, type. I mean, it would be like if this continues and they decide this experiment is long term, he would be out on the field on like first and second down. Like, you're not leaving him out there on 3rd down and 7 on a clear passing down to cover a slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it could be something that is seen in light of helping to solidify yourself against the run. I don't think that's completely off base. I think this is just another example of, like, them getting together in the offseason and saying, all right, we want to get this guy in the field. Let's get creative.
Right.
The easy thing to do would have been what, Brent? Move him to safety.
Yeah. Well, who, Bowers? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, like that would have been, he's 6'1", 212. Like, he's not out of the realm of he's certainly not too big, quote unquote, to play safety.
Right. There you go, Aaron.
Your interception leader right there was
4.
Deshaun Pace with 4.
There you
go. So I think this is just getting a little creative and saying, let's find a way to get this kid on the field and see what he's got. And through 2 days, I put in my little notes thing today. If I had to pick 2 young guys, the guys that weren't on the 2 deep, guys that are looking to storm up the roster, I'd go Leroy Bowers and Shema Mateer.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but wasn't Leroy one of the names that during the subathon that Malik even mentioned as a guy who had been standing out to him?
Yeah. Well, Leroy was really good in bowl practices. And that was kind of like, it got a chance to get him off a scout team because so often, like once you're on scout team, you're just doing a job, right? You're simulating the other team. You're not looking to make plays. You're just doing what is asked of you as a member of the scout team.
Right.
And then they gave him a chance, when they took the scout team jerseys off of him for a week, and all of a sudden he's flying. I still don't think he knows totally what the hell he's doing yet, but he's just another one of those, what do they love? High motor, high energy, fly after the ball, don't think, just go. And that's kind of who Leroy Bowers is already. And I am beginning to get very excited about Leroy Bowers.
So for me is when I was, here and there covering a little bit of recruiting and whatnot, the 2 players or the 2 classes that I was affiliated with for the most part was the Deshaun Pace class and the Leroy Bowers class. And during both times, I mentioned to you numerous times, Chad, I was like, why is Pace rated, why isn't he rated higher? You watch his tape, you watch all these different things in his production, and you're like, he was the GMC player of the year, defensive player of the year. And you're just like, why is he rated so low? And then I watched Leroy Bowers the exact next year. And I said, wow, he's pretty much doing a lot of things that Pace did. He's got kickoff returns for touchdown, punt return for touchdown, interception return for touchdown. He's making big hits. He's getting sacks, strip sacks, different things of that sort. I was like, why are these 2 kids getting more pub, more, and maybe it's because they were a little bit tweeners and, weren't really sure where to project at the next level. So if Bowers, it sounds like he's making the same sort of jump that Pace did from year 1 to year 2. And if this is what kind of translates, then man, that's a massive weapon to use.
I'd say even at this point, even looks a little more explosive than Pace did last spring.
Yeah.
There are times, man, when you just can't, your eyes immediately go are just, whoa, right. Was that Bowers again? Like that kind of thing, where you're not intending to watch him.
Right.
But he just, it's like a magnet. Your eyes are just drawn to him because he does so much athletically. And like I said, I'm sure right now he's probably still driving the coaches nuts on film study. Because it's no, that's not where you were supposed to be, but you made the play. So
you made a good play. Just try and do it a little right next time.
He's got away. He's still not with the ones.
Right.
They haven't taken that risk yet. This is still in the experimental phase of will this work? But I'm leaning towards yes, and it could make that defense again very interesting because I don't know. I'm sure there are other places, but the new thing in college football is using one of those hybrid linebacker safeties. What if the next thing, this is Luke Fickell again on the cutting edge,
right?
is having two of them on the field, one on each side. Like to me, that's kind of the football geek, like fascinating part because it's something new.
Well, I mean, you think about it. When they saw Pace, I'm sure they're like, okay, we got to figure out a way to get Pace on the field, even though Ty Van Fossen is kind of the heir apparent and the guy that showed flashes the year before. Similar like a Will Huber, hey, we've got Joe DeBlanco who has been here for, since 2006, but we still need to get Will Huber out there because he has this specialty where we need him on the field. It kind of seems like it's fitting the mold of those guys. And if staff needs to get Leroy Bowers on the field, they're going to figure out a way to get Bowers on the field. So that is awesome to hear. Another piece of the puzzle. But
I'm excited by it. I think the potential of it is really, really fascinating. So
I want to move on to kind of the hot name throughout the entire winter workouts. And of course, now here through 2 practices, mentioned in practice number 1, mentioned again. You've already mentioned him as a player that kind of sticks out on the offensive side. Shimon Mateer, guys. Kind of just fill me in. It's this thing where last year everyone was begging to get the tight ends more touches. Is next year a season where you've got 3 tight ends and you want to figure out any way possible to somehow get all 3 involved in each game some way, somehow?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I think with Ben is, if Ben ends up winning the job, Ben is a guy, and maybe even Evan, because he's going to be a little bit more green. Like we saw, remember when Dez was young,
right?
Josiah DeGuara was like that security blanket.
Yep.
I think you look for your checkdowns a little bit more. You look for, those quick hits, guys that are going to be open. What's going to be tough for Shimon more than anything is Josh and Lenny being in front of him. But still, there's that opportunity. He can find his way onto the field. Aaron, he didn't do a ton on Saturday.
No, it's just the fact that the speed that we've seen in the posts, Brady's workout posts, it translated to on-field speed. I mean, he's not out there running a route at 20 miles an hour. Don't get me wrong. Right. But you can certainly tell that he's got a step or two on a linebacker in coverage.
Right.
And he shouldn't by looking at him.
Correct.
And you know what that could do? That could do in a certain game here or there, sometime next year, it could catch a defense by surprise. And
sure,
if you're able to do that in 1 or 2 or 3 games, and if that's kind of the impact that you have behind 2 NFL caliber tight ends, then I'd say the future is very bright. So what are you seeing? It's a combo of Lenny and like what is he comparable?
Lenny's number
or
1.
Is he kind of different? Yeah.
Kind of comparable to Lenny. We haven't. Again, we're in practice 2.
Practice 2, right?
So you haven't, and they don't have pads, so you're not seeing are they starting to move Shimon in line?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he getting some blocking responsibilities like Lenny has? Are they using him as more of a full package tight end, or are they using him as a pass catch Kelsey position guy? My inkling is it's going to be more like Lenny.
Mm-hmm.
But if he keeps moving like he does,
sheesh.
Remember 2 years ago when it was basically Bruno and Josh, and then Lenny would sneak in and all of a sudden make a big play or whatever. I think there's a spot for Shimon in that kind of role. Physically, it's very early, and I'm an idiot for saying this, but they have their next prototype, NFL prospect at tight end in the system.
I don't think you're stupid for saying that, but yeah,
tight end,
top rated recruit in his class. I mean, it's not a crazy hill to stand on.
He's gifted, man. He's very, very gifted. That's for sure.
How are his ball skills? It looks like he catches it.
He's caught everything thrown his way. Okay. He put a move on on Jacob Dingle today that was like, oh, he can do that too. Like, okay, like you leave a safety like grasping for air as you go by him and turn a 9-yard gain into a 20-yard gain. Okay,
right.
And let's be honest, you got a safety or a corner or a nickel on him. Good luck getting him down because he's thick. 3 C's. Not 2 C's, 3 C's.
Three, like a milkshake. One thing I constantly remind myself of with Shimon is that he got himself a triple-double in basketball. And you would think a big man like a tight end, maybe that third, wing of the triple-double, that third leg was going to be blocks. But no, it was assists. So he's got some finesse to him. And the fact that, ball skills, everything sounded like he's got some real finesse to his game on the field as well. So that is ever exciting. But I've got to move on. I want to talk about the transfers that have come in, and we're going to work our way up to Ben Bryant, obviously, because he is a special sort of transfer. But just initial thoughts from both of you guys. I'm going to start with Ivan Pace because we already kind of touched on Marner a little bit. So Ivan Pace, is he – because you look
best
at –
hair on the team.
Best hair. Better than Evan.
Best hair on the team.
Evan's got some locks now.
You're not wrong, but I'm saying Ivan Pace. He's got kind of the frohawk.
Yeah,
but it looks mean. Like it's if you got a haircut and went in and said I want to look like a dragon, I feel like that's what you would get. There
we go. Where's he been working in so far the first 2 days?
Well, I wasn't quite anticipating. I'm gonna throw Chad on mute here with the dogs going a little crazy. He's been working in at linebacker as we kind of expected. With Deshaun out on Saturday, there was a little bit more rotation in as Deshaun was on the sidelines working on whatever was going on with him. I'm not entirely sure. Mm-hmm. But of course, when you're only running, 2 linebackers, I mean,
he's projected on that weak side.
Right. Yeah, he's backing up Jaheim.
So we toss around the thought of getting Ty Van Fossen and Pace on the field at the same time. Does the Jaheim and Ivan Pace combo try and possibly, you think, takes that out of the equation?
No. Mm-hmm. Well, I think you could see Ivan Pace and Jaheim on the field at the same time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think Jaheim's going to be really interesting.
Middle linebacker, maybe, or
no, maybe more of like situational rush end. Like they're looking for that long, athletic rush end. So they could, I could see them when they go 4 down. That Jaheim is one of the 4. Pace comes on the field in that weak side linebacker spot, and
we lost Chad again.
That made an interesting sound when he
did.
Get on out. But Pace is kind of that guy that had a lot of sacks off the edge as well. Could he also bump down in that role that you're mentioning? No.
You're talking like Maje, like long, lean. Ivan is not long nor lean. Those are not qualities that are in his scouting report. So no, but he would definitely come in. So you probably have 2 linebackers. Your linebackers would be Huber and Ivan, and you go 4 down with 3 of your linemen, and Jaheim is kind of like your rush end type. Again, like this is all becoming very fascinating to watch because they're in chess mode right now. Like they're preparing their pieces to see what they have, to see what this is. Remember, we talked about how exciting this spring the summer was going to be. These are the reasons why, because now we're finding out, okay, they might use this piece this way, and they might use this piece that way, and maybe this doesn't look like what it's looked like in the past. And that's not a bad thing. You have different talent, you have different personnel, you have different abilities, different skill sets. And again, it's so important to remind people this. The two best recruiting classes in program history, or the three best recruiting classes in program history, are the three most recent classes.
Right.
So the talent is not the concern. The talent level is very high.
Mm-hmm.
The task of the coaching staff is how to maximize that talent. And remember, the last system was built for the talent that was on hand as the last system was evolving.
Exactly.
Marcus Freeman didn't start running a 3-3-5 until 2019. They got here in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
But as Maje became a dominant edge rusher, and all of a sudden you had these two outstanding safeties in Forrest and Wiggins, and now the emergence of Sauce as that was beginning, and Kobe on the other side, and Arquan Bush in the nickel, and you had this dominant secondary, so you could start designing your defense to fit your personnel. Right. Well, maybe this time, and I said this on the BCJ pod as we were going through the defensive preview on Thursday, I think linebacker right now might be the strength of this thing.
Stout.
Yeah.
And if that includes Bowers in the nickel, quote unquote, and you have Deshaun and Ty Van Fossen at the dollar, and you have Jaheim Thomas, who's rushing the quarterback and then dropping and then playing linebacker and in coverage, and you have Huber, who's the consummate veteran leader in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of a sudden, now your defense is based around your linebackers. Well, what has Mike Tressel always had? A defense that was centered around his linebackers.
Yep.
So now you're playing to his strength as a coordinator because your roster kind of matches up with his strength. And all of a sudden you have this like Big Ten style size on your defensive line with Briggs and Van and Jabari Taylor. So it's really fun to watch. Like, it's really fun to see it as it's starting to develop and come to the surface on what this next iteration of the Black Cat defense looks like.
As we're talking about defense, and I know that pads aren't on yet, so this is just completely speculation. But who are you guys?
Speculate. There's nothing I love more than speculation.
Who are you guys most excited to see once the pads do come on? Like somebody to actually get a hit on somebody.
I think Chad's going to say Leroy
Bowers. Like, we've seen all these other guys hit people.
Well, see, for me, I haven't seen this version of Jaheim.
But we've seen him a couple times in games where he hit people. Like, we had the one where Beavers got hurt and was out for, I think the end of the third and fourth quarter of a game.
The UCF?
I don't remember. Yeah. Matt, did you just get here?
We did just touch on that a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, I think they're exploring on whether he can be that edge rushing fourth down lineman and, get after the quarterback passing situations. Yeah, that's something that is being explored.
Mm-hmm. So
that's all right, Matt. I'm just busting your balls. Like, it was literally like 3 minutes ago. So where were you why weren't you here at 8:00, Matt?
Well, welcome to the show.
For me, Aaron, it's safety, because who's going to be that saver of, the next Brian Hicks and Derek Forrest, the guy that, when a running back did get to that 2.5 level, who's going to come up and stuff him. So, I mean, who knows? I saw Dingle and Threats obviously are right there. on that.
You said Brian Hicks. Did you mean?
No, Brian Cook. Brian Cook. I meant.
You
Brian
pulled a
Cook and Derek.
You pulled a Ben Prater.
Yeah, I did. Brian Cook and Derek Force, kind of just those guys that were that last line of defense. I mean, it is crazy to think about the defensive backfield. We were never really super afraid that anyone was going to break through and get behind the defense on you with the cornerbacks and the safeties, that just the luxury of defensive backs. So who's going to step up at that safety position opposite of Hicks?
Armorion Smith has looked really good.
Right. Oh, well, that's another name. And you saw, obviously, McDonald that put his name in to the transfer portal. So obviously that means that it's been some players that have obviously shown some things, and maybe it's the rise of Armorion Smith, the rise of Brian Threats. Just kind of it's the proof is in the pudding, and it's obviously to read between the lines there. So I'm excited to see who really steps up in that other safety position next to Hicks. So that's what I'm looking for, hit-wise. Now, I had a thought when you guys were touching on Nick Mardner and the size that he has. Chad, I did glance at your notes from today, and you did toss out the one hot name. Aaron loves this name as well, of Blue Smith. And I mean, just imagine a 5-wide set with, and this is just thinking out in La La Land, with Mardner and Blue Smith, Wiley, Trey Tucker, Tyler Scott. Yeah, I know. I see your face, Chad, but that's a NCAA type NCAA
yes,
football.
That's exactly
video
what it is.
Game
That's a video game, correct?
But it's pretty exciting to know that those weapons are on this team. So
there's a lot of weapons like that. For an offense that looked around 3 years ago and went, "Where's the beef?" Like all of a sudden, you're looking around now and going, "You got a lot of mouths to feed." Like we got a lot of mouths to feed. Here's the thing on Blue Smith. Today was as good as I've seen him since he's been here.
Good.
We need to see the consistency.
Because he had a couple good days in Camp Higher Ground last year where
he had a couple good plays. I don't know that he had good days. I think people just want him to be a factor so bad that if he makes a play, it's equated to he had a good day.
Right.
I'm talking today. He made 6 or 7 between, like I said, this was from 1-on-1 to 7-on-7 to team period. He made some plays in every phase, and he was doing it in a little bit of different ways. He's not, a burner. You're not going to put him, outside and ask him to run like a go route.
Right.
But his routes look pretty good. He was getting some good separation from the defensive backs. His hands look good. Like it was definitely like a complete day, which is what, listen, that's why you haven't heard his name more.
Yeah.
Because he'll have a couple good plays, but he hasn't yet to string together like 3 good days. Or like 3 out of 5 good days where like you keep, and blue look really good today. Blue look really good today.
Right. As the biggest Blue Smith stan on this show, and maybe in all of Bearcat Journal, I would say that he's maybe been his own biggest enemy, because I think he gets so frustrated sometimes on the field where you see the helmet being thrown or you see him getting barked at and just kind of sulking back to the sideline. And I think that he just kind of gets in his own way more often.
Immaturity more often than not. Like it's not having that ability to just like compartmentalize. Like, okay,
forget
that
it.
Play didn't work. Like
we
got to go to the next play. Like he hasn't had that, and we didn't. Here's the thing: he didn't have to have it today because he made the plays today.
Right.
So what happens? If he comes out and on his second catch or second attempt on Wednesday, he bobbles it or something, and then he gets in his head,
Right.
and then he goes in the tank for the rest of the day.
Yep.
If you get this version of Blue Smith, you can definitely use him. But that's why I'm like, how hesitant I was writing about him today? Because I know people are going to freak out. I didn't write about it on Saturday because he didn't really do anything.
Right.
And we still had 3 people. What about Blue Smith? What about Blue Smith? What about Blue Smith? Look, guys, I promise. If somebody plays well, I'm going to write about him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the job, right? Watch practice, write about what happens. And especially in a spring setting, like write about what goes right, write about who looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, who looks like they might be able to step up and make a contribution. If Blue can get there, more power to him. But he's got to back up stuff like what we saw today consistently.
Right.
He was good today, though.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. Wasn't as good as somebody else, but he was good today.
Oh, not quite as good as
a quarterback.
Who's that? Oh, well, that was the next step. But I mean, shoot, it's just Jaden Thompson. Drew Donnelly.
Jaden Thompson had a couple. I think Drew Donnelly had a bum wheel today, which was why. See, that's the other thing. Like Donnelly had been in that field wide receiver number 2 spot.
Right. And
it looked like he turned an ankle or something. He was walking, it was fine, but looked like just a little ginger. So Blue got more opportunities to move up to that second team spot where Donnelly was, and he made plays. Like, that's the thing, man. You got to take advantage. If something happens.
We just lost your audio.
I'm back?
Yeah, you're back.
I was loading for a second. That's the thing. Like, when you get your opportunities, you got to take advantage and show the people making the decisions. Like, I'm that dude. Like, you have to get me on the field. Let's go.
I mean, it's just so many ways. Last year's spring ball darling, Will Pauling, hasn't even gotten any mention at all yet, which is just proof of how deep and how talented all these pass catchers are for the team right now. But
I know he had a grab on Saturday, but I think that was it. I think he had a grab on Saturday.
But guys, what I'm getting to is your pass catchers are only as special as your passer can be to put them in the position, because they can get open and then just have everything airmailed. I heard someone had a really good day today, Chad. I heard one of these pass catchers potentially could make one of these passers could make all of these receivers look quite a bit better than they already are.
Again, day 2. Again,
this is a podcast, and we got to get the people going.
Again, day 2.
Right.
See, look, here's what you are right now, Brent. You're the uncle that comes over and gets my kids all fucking fired up and then leaves. And then I have to deal with the repercussions of my kids being all fired up.
I'm usually that uncle.
That's good.
Yeah. You both are.
Good thing.
Not for me. Not
Get
for the parent.
People going.
Not for the parent.
My sisters hate me.
But someone did have a good day.
Ben Bryant was he made 4 or 5 throws today. Tight window, on time, on target, right in the hands. A couple of them over the middle, a couple of them deep, a couple touch passes down the sideline. Like, he was in command of the offense today. It was the throw he had a throw to Tyler Scott. It was about 50 yards. And he just stepped into it and ripped it. I mean, usually 50-yard throws have like some arch to them.
Right.
This thing came out of his hands and it just sizzled about 10 feet off the ground for 50 yards, right into the hands of Tyler Scott in coverage for a touchdown. Like, right as Tyler Scott was crossing the end zone, the ball was in his hands. It was pretty. He had a couple throws to Lenny and Shaman over the middle that were just step into it and zip it. and hit him right in the hands in coverage. Guy draped all over him. He threw one to Mardner down the sidelines for like 27, 28 yards. That was kind of a corner, like a out corner, deep corner route, and just dropped it in the bucket where all Mardner had to do just was put his hands up and make the catch. It like there was a pretty lengthy segment today where it was the Ben Bryant show, and it was like we used to see that some back before he left, where that arm, that sizzling, like tantalizing arm talent would wow you, but it was inconsistent. Now I think, man, this kid's got a year starting under his belt. The confidence is there. Like he's seeing things different in this moment. He's understanding like what the look is from the defense. He's understanding what the route concept is, where he's trying to get the ball. And today he was just ripping it. And it was like, I think that's the good thing is what I'm about. Evan Prater had a good day.
Right.
Like it wasn't like, Evan had a bad day and Ben had an okay day. Evan had a good day. He made a couple really nice throws today.
Right.
Ben just made a couple today that were like, oh, like things are different if you got a guy that's just going to step into a throw like that and move the chains, and complete.
Right.
That's kind of where like Dez was, probably the most frustrating for me early in his career. He got better as it went along, but like those,
Alec Pierce is 10 yards behind the defense.
No.
Throws early in the
no. Those 13-yard over the middle routes to your tight end.
Okay.
Those intermediates,
those intermediates that move the chains, on 2nd and 7.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you've got 1st and 10, 18 yards down the field because you hit a guy in stride at 13. He turned it up, gets an extra 5 yards. And now you're rolling right now. The offense is moving.
So was that like the ball to Mateer that you were talking about earlier, where he took something that was like 8 and turned it into 18 or something like that?
Yeah. Well, that was more Shaman. That one was like a little check down, and then he just, he made Dingle look bad. He made Jacob Dingle look bad.
I just didn't know if that was one of the passes from Bryant that you were talking about, but
I didn't have it written down.
Okay.
Who threw that pass? But I'm talking more about like, those 15 to 17 yard down the field throws that when you watch Alabama, like remember when that's what they'd have 3rd and 11 and they'd hit that 15 yarder.
Right.
That really hasn't been part of the offense here. So if you get that with Ben, where he's got that arm to just stick it in there and get you that first down.
Here's an instigating uncle comment.
Here we fucking go.
The Pro Football Focus PFF did a top, I think it was top 10 rated Desmond Ridder plays of his career. And one of them at the very top was his pass to Tyler Scott against Miami. Yep, to open the season. So if
Ben can throw it deep, that's never been.
No. But I'm saying if Ben Bryant's putting it on the money on a similar type of a pass, then
no, it wasn't a similar type of a pass. This was not.
It was a laser, right?
It was a laser. That pass to Tyler Scott was put some air under it.
Right, but that's still going to be a highly rated, tough, not tough, but great pass.
Yeah, but it's a completely different style of pass is what I'm saying. This was.
I'm just talking about the rating, just the rating.
But you said it was a similar pass. You said it was a similar pass. I'm explaining.
Right.
You don't have to get defensive. I'm explaining. You weren't. It was guy trailing him in coverage, safety over the top, and Ben put the ball in between the defense on a line 50 yards down the field. That is not hitting a guy running wide open 75 yards. That is a different type of pass.
Right.
It was look, there are only a couple plays a week, and Justin and I, Williams, are usually within like eye shot of each other, where we look at each other and raise the eyebrows like, oh, Oh, okay. That was that pass to Tyler Scott today. That there might not be a better play in spring football. There's 13 practices to go. There might not be a better throw in spring football than the throw Ben had to Tyler Scott. And if there is, we're having a hell of a spring, boys. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like,
yeah,
I know what you're saying, that was a great throw to Tyler Scott, but it was a different animal.
There we go. That's music to my ears. Music to my ears and to the listeners' ears. So buy stock now. But any closing remarks as far as football spring practice? Obviously, that they're going to continue, and like you said, who knows? Maybe in the next practice it's Evan Prater who's having just a monster day, or maybe it's one of the defensive players that's really stepping up whose name hasn't been mentioned yet. So
I thought Saturday Evan and Ben were pretty even. Like Ben maybe had a slight edge, but I thought they had similar days. Would you agree, Aaron?
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, both guys kind of airmailed some receivers early on, took them a minute to get in their groove. And when they did, they were hitting guys. But it was just kind of getting back into the swing of things. I mean, you just were kind of running short passes early on, throwing darts, and then when you opened it up, you had to wait for that arm to kind of catch up with you.
I think the biggest difference today was that Evan was relying a lot on like checkdowns and underneath stuff. The stuff that we saw him have success on, and then he would hit a couple big throws off of that, where instead of checkdowns, Ben was hitting 17-yarders, 20-yarders, and then going over the top and hitting 40, 50-yarders on top of that. So that was probably the difference was Evan looking a little bit more in that under 10-yard range and completing it, where Ben was working in the 10 to 25-yard range, and really pushing with confidence, just stepping into throws and pushing the ball downfield, which makes this offense an entirely different animal if 2nd and 7 is, potentially a 15-yarder regularly.
I'm really like, one thing I've been also thinking about is the fact that we've gotten so used to seeing this is what a good Desmond Ridder day looks like. This is what a good Alec Pierce rep looks like. This is what, a great, insert player here or there. Oh, wow. This is when Kobe really locks down a play or makes a big play, or when Sauce just completely wipes away, when Maije dominates a tackle. So it'll be interesting to see as spring practice continues and throughout the entire offseason, when you adjust your thought of like, wow, okay, that's what a good Ben Bryant day looks like. That's what, a great Jaheim Thomas day looks like. So
fortunately, for the most part, we know what a good Ben Bryant day looks like already.
Yeah, because we would. You would.
Because, I've seen it. I've seen what a good Ben Bryant day looks like. But has that scale changed? Right? Is the evaluation of a good Ben Bryant day now obsolete?
Right.
Does it look more like today? Because if today is like I guess that's the question, right?
Office. Yeah.
Is today a normal day in the office what we saw, or is today like he was at the top of his game today?
Right.
So now that's where the fun comes in, as we get to kind of like find that middle ground. Where was he at today? Is this what he looks like all the time now?
Yep.
Or was this him coming out and having himself a day with a couple really, really good throws?
Right. Because you get so used to seeing certain players throughout such a long time, where you kind of probably expect the same eye here and there. You can kind of tell after the first
is kind of like a metronome.
Handful of reps. Yeah.
You knew pretty much every day what you were going to get from Dez, what throws were you expected to be good, what throws you expected to be, maybe a little inconsistent. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
That'll be exciting as it unfolds. And luckily, what is Wednesday? Are they off Tuesday, then back Wednesday? Is it kind of a every other day type ordeal? They
have Wednesday and Friday left this week.
Mm-hmm.
they're supposed to be closed because the sports information office is all packing up shop and heading to Dallas, obviously.
Right.
They're supposed to be closed. We'll see. I think I think I've worked out that I can be at practice. I'm not just going to be able to do like post game interviews and stuff like that.
So you purchased the drone, is what you're trying to say?
They're in the bubble.
You can put a drone in the bubble.
You're not. If the drone is in the bubble, I have to be in the bubble.
And
I might as well just be in the bubble then.
Right. Yeah, good point. Probably hit the roof.
If they were at Nipper, purchase the drone. Like, let's go. But I think we should be okay tomorrow and Friday. It might not be full reports. It might be partial reports, just so I don't upset the apple cart. I know there's, people that probably won't be happy that I'll be there and they'll be in Dallas covering football or basketball. So
too much Leroy Bowers talk. All of a sudden, he's at the top of everyone's game. And I'm just joking, but yeah, it's gonna be exciting to hear as that continues to develop. And then, of course, as basketball comes on, we gotta slowly shimmy to there. Aaron, did you have anything closing wise?
We've got an hour and 10 minutes on 2 spring practices.
I'm just disappointed that Chad didn't have his camera on for the last 3 minutes for all the "I hate you, Brent" looks that he probably had.
Shoot.
I'm trying to keep myself from getting in trouble.
I hate you, Brent. Wow. Keep that mental note. Jesus. All right. Anyway.
I love you, Brent. Brent, I love you. Aaron said that, not me.
Oh, I know Aaron hates me. I know Aaron hates me.
I
just
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so also football-wise, before we completely move on, a bunch of recruits are in town, and then of course the combine. Got to wrap up those 2. I'm sure Dave will dive in more on the combine on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever you guys record that one. But as far as the recruits in town, Mick put up a story, kind of getting in touch with some of those. There's some big names there, and it seems like the big names are continuing to come. Were you guys able to kind of get any eyeballs on the guys that were in town and kind of how they, was it just kind of just observing and then talking to the staff afterwards, things of that sort?
Yeah, it's mostly just observing, watching practice, talking to, catching up with the staff after the game, or after practice. And, Mick will have everything on that. That's the nice part, especially a day with as many guys as they had Saturday.
Right.
Mick can kind of go handle the recruiting stuff, and I can watch practice. Like days like tomorrow, there's, as Mick has posted, there's quite a few recruits in the house. I don't think he can make it down. So I'm going to have to kind of double duty it, which sucks because you don't get as much attention to detail at practice. But it is what it is. I did it for many, many years, kind of handling that duty by myself during the spring. So it is interesting. It feels like there's a lot more interest in showing up to see the old Bearcats take the field this spring. And here's one thing I was thinking about this as I was going through Mick's article. A lot of the kids were talking about like the energy at practice and the tempo of practice. Mm-hmm. And that used to be something I noticed. But my eye, I guess, has just been reprogrammed to that's practice.
Right.
It's not a high energy practice. It's a practice because all practices are expected to be that high energy.
Yep.
So that was just something that in reading through what Mick had gotten from them, they all talked about wow, watching the tempo, watching the pace of that practice was stood out. And I'm like, yeah, that I remember when it was like that, after the previous coach left and the new staff came in, and you're like, dude, these guys get after it. And now it's just kind of no, this is what practice looks like. This is what it is. Uh-oh, Aaron.
Breaking news. My alma mater.
Do you know Kathy here?
I don't know Kathy, but
okay.
Wright State wins.
Well, I figured she would she obviously know, I would guess. Kathy, are you aware that Aaron's a Wright State wrong school guy? Because that's all that would make sense is letting Aaron know.
Good to see.
So now you got to root for the Norse, right? Like that's a rivalry. So you get Wright State and NKU for a berth in the NCAA tournament.
Truthfully, I don't give a damn about NKU. So
I'm just saying, don't you would you rather play your rival or
no? I would rather
NKU play Cleveland State.
I would just rather Wright State got in, but
they play IPFW.
So Wright State beat Cleveland State.
Yeah, they beat Cleveland State 82-67.
Oh wow, that's a nice win.
For me in mixed article, I've loved how recruits are now saying it's easy to see why Cincinnati is one of the best programs in the country. Easy to see why Cincinnati is at the top of college football. Just different things of that sort is. I mean, it's still just eye-opening, even after the years of constantly already seeing it. So leading up to now, so it's an awesome thing. Speaking of being at the top of the college football hemisphere, that goes hand in hand with getting players into the NFL. The combine was this past weekend, long weekend, if you will. Dave did a good breakdown of each player that was there for the Bearcats. Kind of what is your guys'? I don't want to dive too far into this because, like I said, Chad, I'm sure you and Dave will do it. Yeah.
We don't have time. We are already way long.
Real fast from both of you guys.
Successful week for the Bearcats. Like overall, there were some ups, there were some downs. There were, not everything was perfect as you would wish.
Yeah.
But overall, especially like first and last impressions. Mm-hmm. The first impression was Dez being probably the best quarterback overall between the testing and the drills and the interviews. And then what blew me away, the NFL is making Sauce a star.
Dude, right?
The NFL is making Sauce a star. Not kinda. That last day and a half, everything they did was Sauce. Sauce is fit walking into the combine and Sauce running his 4.41 and Sauce, this is Sauce in coverage, or this is Sauce doing backpedaling drills, or
So was ESPN, though. It wasn't even just the NFL, but ESPN was fully on board with that too.
And
it's unbelievable to watch.
It seemed like they were holding their breath, and the second that Sauce got in the 4.4s, then they were all like, "Yes, all right,
yeah, this is the dude.
Load on,
the guy.
Load on,
pile on him."
Yeah.
It was almost overwhelming because I knew he'd get favorable. It's like Survivor, right? Are you Survivor guys? You ever watch Survivor or The Amazing Race?
Watch the first few seasons. Rupert.
Yeah, who gets the good edit, right? Right. It determines public opinion.
Yeah, they shape villains and heels and
yeah. Sauce got the good edit.
Yeah,
the hype and the buzz surrounding this kid now is remarkable. But I said it last night on Twitter when we were after I put out the wingspan thing that I had gotten, how his wingspan had grown over an inch in 5 months,
right?
And that he's 20. He can't even buy a beer. That Sauce is not 21.
Not that he would.
He doesn't drink anyway.
He wouldn't drink. Well, I mean, he could buy it for someone else,
as long as they were also over 21. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted.
Of course, right? Legally, yes. He's gonna have the money, is what I'm saying, to buy beer for his friends, as long as they're of age.
Of age, yeah, there it is.
Of age friends. He's gonna have that money. The edit they're giving him is just almost over the top. You don't Who's the only other? I think there's only one other guy that got kind of the same hype that he did, and it was also well-deserved. It was Jordan Davis, because he ran like
he's a monster, right? He's from Space Jam.
340 pounds, vertical leap like 36. They were showing him doing one of the drill where they're telling you like back, forward, left, right, back. He looked like a 227-pound middle linebacker doing that drill.
Good.
He got a hold of some of MJ's special stuff.
He got a hold of some kind of special stuff.
He is a monster from Space Jam.
Maybe Redman and Method Man stuff and How High. He might have got a hold of that.
That's totally different stuff.
They got A's at Harvard. Like, it might be similar stuff.
Insanity. But no, it's not like they trashed Stingley at all during that. But like
he didn't come up.
They made Sauce
really.
They made Sauce be the only guy, and I mean,
I wasn't like listening to every word,
right?
But because Stingley wasn't there, I hardly heard his name mentioned.
Yeah,
and everything was about here comes Sauce. Sauce is 5 guys away. Well, here comes Sauce.
And then you saw like people on Twitter start to say, teams have never considered a cornerback as the number 1 overall pick. But now with Sauce Gardner, I think some teams are going to start to really think about it. And it's just like, not that he's going to go number 1 overall, but just
I think what they were saying more is like he might not be, and especially in this draft, because this draft's a little wonky in terms of who's the number 1, like who's the best player in this draft. What the conversation I think was, he might be the best player in this draft. He's probably not going to go number 1 because the cornerback's never going to go number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But this is so, for all of us, this is so rewarding because remember in November and December when there were mocks of Sauce at like 27?
Yeah.
And like,
and at that same time, we were all like, as Bengals fans, he's not, I don't know if he's going to fall all that way.
But that's my point. As UC fans, we were like, there is no chance that this guy is 27. Now, it was pointed out to me why this happened. So in the draft process, that part, like October, November, is just the internet voice, like the internet noise. People that do mock drafts and people that, have capitalized on the draft machine.
It's like a direct attack at Dave Simone.
No. Not at all. It's pointing out that the draft itself has become like a giant monetized.
It's an all year thing. But as we get into January and February and into March, the voices you start hearing are the scouts, are the GMs, are the personnel people. It's no longer, Steve from San Antonio that loves the draft. So like he's gotten into the draft game. Now the professionals and the professional opinions are in, and the professional opinions are, this dude's as good as there is. And we all saw that. We all, as UC fans, UC people, UC voices, looked at this kid and went, if there's 10 people better in this draft, I don't know that I know what I'm watching, right? Like, I don't know that maybe my football eye isn't as keen as I think it is. Well, we were the only ones looking at him because the offenses that he played against certainly weren't.
True.
Touché.
Including Alabama, Notre Dame, Indiana, Georgia. Wow, Georgia. They win the Peach Bowl so easily if he plays. Ugh.
Don't do that.
Don't talk about it.
It's not fair.
Anyway, of course, the teams are really starting to love Dez as well, but I want to move on to basketball real quick. Just kind of the mention of Dez, as some teams fell in love with him. And when it comes to the NFL draft, when it comes to quarterbacks, all you need is one team to fall in love with you. And we've seen quarterbacks, teams really take a reach for a quarterback high. So who knows? We'll have to see. but a lot of fun leading up to that. But now, guys,
it's what we talked about all along with Des.
Yeah,
it's what we talked about all along with Des. He's going to interview well. As long as he tested well or well enough, then he was going to be okay, and he's going to be more than okay. He might not end up making that leap to the first round, but I think somebody is gonna take him, even if it's what I think is probably more likely now is you see one of those trade up at the back end of the first round
Lamar
because
Jackson.
such and such team fell in love with him and knows like we can't let him go and fall any further or we're not going to get him.
Yeah, and then my mind goes to Lamar Jackson. Not saying Dez is going to win an MVP in his first few seasons in the NFL, but Lamar.
But if you're going to gamble on a quarterback, that's the move that you make. So.
Yeah, give me a uber athletic one at the end of the first half.
Now, go get your segue. Come on.
Speaking of first round, the Bearcats have a game coming up here, and on the hardwood down in Dallas, Fort Worth. First round tip-off at 1 p.m. on Thursday. For all of you that work 9 to 5s, myself included, gotta love that start time, baby. It's against ECU. It's a team that the Bearcats have taken down twice so far this season. The winner takes on Houston. So here we go. In an interesting stat I saw, I don't know if you guys saw this, the team that hopped Cincinnati to 7th was Wichita State.
Yeah.
I think Wichita State was the only team in the AAC that didn't play some sort of percentage of their full schedule. They missed 3 games. All 3 were road games at SMU, at Temple, and at ECU. So
weird.
Why did they not have to make those games up? Why was that a Cincinnati thing? Why did Cincinnati have to make their games up and essentially wreck their schedule for the remainder of the season, but a team like ECU or Wichita State got to miss 3 games.
3 road games.
It's unbelievable.
I'm going to say Wichita State loses 2 of those, and since he's playing at a way more reasonable time on Thursday, but I digress.
Well, considering Cincinnati beat them twice.
Yeah.
Here's what I will say, though, after this weekend.
Yeah,
being in the Houston half of the bracket and not the Memphis half of the bracket might be a good thing.
Oh, yeah. I think Memphis is getting very hot at the right time. They have been fantastic over the last 10 games, except for one bad half at SMU.
They smoked Houston.
Yes. I mean, that game, I was excited to watch that game, and then I was bored after the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. Houston had no shot in that game.
No.
Here's my question for you, Brent.
Yeah.
Everybody says it's hard to beat a team 3 times. It's so hard to beat a team. Is it A, harder to beat a team 3 times, or B, to have a guy play 3 straight games against one opponent like Vance Jackson played in the first 2?
I'm going to go with option C, actually, because I think that it's harder for Vance Jackson to have that because the defense is going to be able to scheme and really stop him. Newton is the player on ECU that's kind of been like that one that the Bearcats have been able to contain for the most part, and he's arguably their best player. But for me, is this Cincinnati team is so different from both times that they played ECU. I mean, the one that went on that Texas 2-time tango is completely different than the one that played at ECU and the one that played at home against ECU. It's a strange thing, it'd be different if, yes, you rolled out the same type of rotations, the same production, this, that, and the other against ECU. But I mean, these new kind of, I don't know, like a Jarrett Hensley, if you will. And I know he got added minutes because of the injury to John Newman. And I don't know if we got, and I know you guys had a media availability with Wes. I haven't been able to watch that yet today. But was there an update on Newman, or?
He was out getting jump shots up before practice. Does that mean he'll play? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it looked like a heavily rolled ankle, something that we've
it's just an ankle that he's been dealing with since, geez, way back at the beginning of the season.
Tale as old as time.
Yep. Oh wow, Beauty and the Beast.
You're welcome.
So as it kind of breaks down, is like, you know what I mean? It just seemed as if this was kind of a different feel that came out of Texas. The doom and gloom of the games leading up to that. And sure, both games were losses, and you guys already touched on the SMU game, and we don't have to do that here at all, but it seems as if they've got a different kind of bravado to themselves going into this tournament, and they've got the mindset that they've got a real legit shot, and they're going to do absolutely all they can to come out on top. So, and you saw some changes, kind of rotation minute wise, not really at the top, but kind of, Mikey had some more burn against Houston. You saw Hensley kind of had to play some more. Vic had back-to-back games in double-digit minutes for the first time since kind of I think it was like the early conference season. So it seems as if some different pushes by Wes have started to click at the right time. And, you play ECU. I don't think that it's a team that you really have to worry about the whole beating a team 3 times in one season, because ECU's kind of been on a tumble themselves. So,
well, and there's statistical evidence that shows that's not like the team that wins twice, like 67 to 70% of the time wins the third time.
Right. Because at that point, they're just the better team.
Right. You've established that they're the better team. Now, the first game was what? Like, it got closer at the end because
they were up like 30
yeah,
at one point.
And ECU made a push to get back into it.
Right.
The game at ECU was a 1-point game. So I expect it to be a nip and tuck kind of deal. Mm-hmm. But I'm really interested to see what this team looks like with a couple of days of practice, man.
Right.
They just haven't had a couple of days to get in the gym. And Wes said in the media availability today, yesterday was the best day of practice that they've had in a long time, because they got a little bit of rest. They got a chance to reset and refocus, and they came in hungry. And that's been the MO of this team, man. They like, how easy it is at the end of a season to just throw in the towel after you lose a couple games in a row.
Right.
They could have went to Houston and Dallas, SMU, and got smoked.
Right.
With as much adversity as they had been through. And that's not what happened.
No.
So I'm really interested to see the fight from this team, like when they get down there, especially right out of the gate against ECU.
And you know what the funniest part of it all is, how we were kind of complaining or nitpicking the fact that, they finally get a break, and it's at the very end of the year during a weekend where everyone else is playing. But now you take a step back and you're like, this
given their situation that they
time.
have to win the tournament, it might be a great time for that break.
Right. Exactly. I want to kind of get your guys' thoughts on just it's not necessarily been something crazy to the point where like Wes is playing Vic 20 minutes and, Jarrett Hensley's getting, every single backup minute available. But it does seem like there's been not necessarily a push, but it's been more minutes and kind of a changing of the rotations. And you are seeing kind of that like rotations that have not been as consistent throughout the year. And it seems like it's kind of been paying off in at least the last 2 games. And I'd imagine it would be something that is kind of matchup driven, but I'm sure that you'll see it against ECU and then of course against Houston, because we just saw it against Houston on Tuesday night. I
think some of it's been confidence driven. I mean, you've seen Hensley putting up some great minutes, and especially when Newman went down, you needed that. Mikey has been putting up some fantastic minutes over the last 2 games, and again, he seems to have found his shot, which had been missing for the majority of the season, unfortunately. So you're starting.
Play. He shot it really well in non-conference. Conference play has been a struggle,
right?
But it's been a while. So you're starting to see that confidence creep back into these guys that have been, for lack of a better word, just kind of lacking that confidence. And so I've been, pretty emphatic about it, and just kind of happy to see this team kind of start to find their footing against 2 high-profile teams at the end of the season here.
What's most important about that, though, Aaron? If you're going to win this tournament, you're going to have to win 4 games in 4 days. You're going to need depth.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you're going to need depth, what better time for your depth to get back to? I mean, I think the bench has been over 30 points in each of in the Houston and SMU games, or at least in the 20s and 30s. Like the bench production has been back to when this team was playing well. The bench was playing. The bench was supplementing the starters. Yeah. And when this team struggled, they were getting points from the starters. They weren't getting anything from the bench. Right. It's a lot easier to score in the 70s or the upper 60s when your bench is giving you 25 points. Yep. Right? Like that's just, pretty simple math. So I think they're in a good spot there for sure.
And then in the same sense, you had David Julius kind of find his groove, especially in the first half against SMU, but he was kind of just locked in the entire game. And it seemed as if SMU just, I think I tweeted it, didn't get the scouting report of how to just completely just, hammer David Julius every time he touches the ball. But
they don't have the length.
Right. But yeah, ECU has some length, but definitely not the length of the top two teams in the conference. So top three teams and teams, top two more likely. But
Temple has great length.
Temple, they're fourth. Yeah,
Memphis, Houston. The top 4 or 5 teams in the league outside of SMU have that exact thing that creates issues for the Cincinnati roster. That's why I was bullish on. I thought they could beat SMU, and if it wasn't for an epic level screw job by the conference, and the way that game was officiated, UC wins that game.
SMU currently the last team in on a couple of brackets that I saw today, but take it for what it is. But I'm just excited to see kind of what they come out with. Of course, you've got that first game of the conference tournament. Are you going to continue to ride that wave? Because yes, you are still riding the biggest losing streak in a while. Well, since last season, but still, you could be down on yourselves. But no, it seems like they've got a different push behind them, and I expect them to come out refreshed. Jeremiah Davenport seems like he's playing obviously with the same purpose he always has, but it seems as if he's kind of focusing on some certain aspects of his game a little bit more in the last couple. So I'm excited to see how they come out, because if you win that first game and you're excited, you are facing a Houston team that, yes, they just got throttled by Memphis, but they know they're in the tournament. They've got a team that, it's no bench at all. It's one
that's what I wonder about them, right, Brent? Like,
yeah,
how much do they really want to get in the mix of trying to win this tournament?
Right. We're already in. What, you can rise up to maybe a 4? It's just
now. I think you're going to see the remember the old AAC drop where teams are projected and then they drop 2 seed levels. If you look actually at Houston's resume, there's not much meat on the bone.
No,
they've not beaten a surefire NCAA tournament team the entire season.
Mm-hmm. So their metrics just have them so high. It's just
it doesn't make, but where it makes sense, the metrics are so high because they're beating teams they should beat by more than they're supposed to. They were expected to beat them. Right. And that's where really your metrics take like a huge jump.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, but I
wonder with them, like they know that's 7 guys. And do we really want to try to win 3 games in 3 days and then have to turn around 4 days later and play in the NCAA tournament? I don't know. I don't know that the answer to that is yes. Like if you're really being smart about it. So will they come out and play? They have their culture. They're going to play hard, but we've seen them in the AAC tournament not look their best. Like you could tell their eyes were on the NCAA tournament. So,
and winning 3 games in 3 days. It's that, like you said, depth can win 4 games in 4 days. And magical run by a guard or two. But Houston does not have depth at all.
No, they're 7 deep. Literally, that's it. 7 deep.
Yeah, and it's like those two off the bench don't give you much other than just minutes. So
you want to hear a funny story from practice today?
Yes.
Guess who was there? If you watch the Wes Miller video, you'll see somebody in the background getting some shots up.
Huh. I didn't watch it. Oh.
Haven't seen G since he left, like since he transferred out.
Right.
This is the first time I saw him back. You know what's hilarious? Where did G-Long go?
To East Tennessee State.
What conference is East Tennessee State in?
They are in the the SoCon.
Who spent a lot of time in the SoCon?
Is it Wes Miller?
I believe G-Long put 35 on him at one point in time.
I feel like I just heard Brent connecting dots. That was fantastic.
So, Roberts was there at that time when it happened. Morgan was there at that time when it happened. Wes was there at that time when it happened. G-Lon today had his East Tennessee State bag that that's what he was using to put his shoes in and all that stuff. And those guys, they were having a good old time.
Hey, Coach, remember me?
No, I asked Roberts. I was like, "Did you say hi to G-Lon yet?" And he was like, "Oh, hold on a minute." And he went over and he was like, "You're in my gym after you gave us 35." And they were having a good time with it. So it was good to see G.
That's awesome.
I had a great relationship with G, and he even said, he was like, "Man, I wish it would have worked out." But G would be awesome to get on this podcast. Yeah, he's a really smart, articulate kid. He's got the experience of what Cincinnati's about. He's got the experience of what it's like playing against Wes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to dig up, getting in touch with G and seeing if we can get him on here, because I'd love to get his thoughts. He's back. There's a new pro team that's based out of Cincinnati that's just getting started, and G is playing.
Are they called the Stuff again?
No.
What a terrible name that was.
He said he played. They played their first game the other night, and he had 30 something, 20, high 20s, low 30s. So he can still play. He said he was in China, and then they closed the borders, so he had to come back to the States, but they're still paying him as if he was playing in China. So he's got a pretty good gig right now.
Nice.
Good for G. Good for G.
We got to get to this mailbag.
Yeah. Well, just real quick. Speaking of G, that's a point guard, Isaiah Collier. Go like and retweet his tweet, guys. The numbers on that tweet today. All he did was just post a picture of him from his recruiting visit to Cincinnati and said, "What does it say? Bearcats? Question mark? Something along those lines." And man, like the Bearcat faithful do on Twitter, they blew it up. If you go back to November, he did the same thing for Alabama. I think it netted a total of 300 likes, something along those lines. Go ahead and take a look at what the reactions are on that one. So, and also another thing, he had less than 1,000 followers heading into today. He went over 1,000. I know it probably made him feel a little giddy that it was a bunch of Bearcat fans that were able to push him over the top. So,
Very good.
Hammer it.
Well, these are going to have to be quick hits because it's not a super full mailbag, but it is the mailbag nonetheless. So, without further ado, the first question from the Bearcat Bounce Mailbag, starting with the football side of things. Will we see Mick doing a recruiting pod anytime soon, or can we do a Friday chat where we can pepper him with questions? Of course, that comes from none other than Bearcat Nation 11.
No.
Doesn't get any quicker than that.
We're working on doing some recruiting pod content. I'm still undecided on the Friday chat. That just causes more problems than it's worth, more often than not, because of guys like Bearcat Nation 11 to take it too far.
All right. What are your post-combine predictions on what rounds the Bearcat NFL hopefuls land in the 2022 draft? Real quick.
Sauce top 5.
Top 5.
I think he's trending towards being a top 10 pick for sure.
At worst.
I'd love to see him in the top 5. I think Dez has a real chance to sneak into the back end of the first round, if not early second round.
Partially because
the rest, year. Yeah, the rest, man.
Alec Pierce.
I think Pierce has put himself
second round,
really close to second round, if not second, very early third. Maje is going to have a really good pro day to be a second round pick. He's going to have to show he can put that weight back on,
right?
And still be explosive. Darian is probably a third or fourth. I think you're going to see a lot of guys third or fourth. Like Kobe. I think Maje, Kobe, Cook, Beavers. If somebody falls in love, you could see them in the second. Yeah. Ford. It's kind of Ford, I'm guessing, because I just worry about running backs and how overvalued or undervalued they are.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The thing about him, though, is he does not have that much, like, he didn't get that much wear and tear at all during.
Yeah, but it's just so weird. Like, they have to, teams don't want to take a back until the fourth round.
Right.
Like,
true.
So are you like, where are you at in that pecking order of backs as the run on running backs really starts? Like you'll see a couple guys go in the second, you'll see a couple guys go in the third, but you probably won't really get a run on running backs until the fourth. And that's just like, that's kind of how the draft has been.
Right.
So I would guess he's going to be probably a day 3 guy, but there's a bunch of guys that it's going to be really interesting. Are they back into the second, into the third, or do they go into the fourth? I think there's, 4 or 5 guys that are right in that late second to early fourth range where anything can happen.
Sure. You saw a Chicago Bears writer tweeted about Brian Cook.
Oh, they love, for some reason, for some reason, the Bears have like really, their fan base has really dialed in on like Brian Cook as a guy they want. That's always fascinating to me. Like
how it happens. Yeah.
This is the guy I want in the third round. Right. Like what? Okay. Yeah. Like what if there's a first round talent that's still hanging out there in the third? No, I identified this is the guy that I decided was the third round guy.
Pierce, it's like don't let Aaron Rodgers see Alec Pierce.
Don't let Bill Belichick see Alec Pierce.
We're not getting into any of that.
No, Bill Belichick and Pierce would be doing like engineering schematics. Like they got on the whiteboard and they'd be like how to build a model like a Formula 1 car.
Sure, that's
instead of doing football.
Second question: what are the primary position battles to watch as we enter spring practice? I know we've touched on this repeatedly.
We covered a ton of that. Like, cornerback, quarterback, linebacker. How does that all shake out? Like, how does the defensive line shake out?
Safety for me.
Running back.
Safety. Defensive line after the 3 starters.
Sure.
Running back. Like, how does that, does anybody really step up and grab the bull by the horns at running back? Pretty much everywhere this year, except for tight end, because it's going to be Josh and Lenny.
Right.
And even at wide receiver, like we know it's probably like snap 1 of the season. It's probably going to be Tyler Scott, Jaden Thompson, and Trey Tucker.
Right.
But boy, there's a lot of options. A lot of options, including Aaron's guy after today.
You're my boy, Blue. All right. I would like to know about the progress of Justin Wotley, Rob Jackson, and the Godfather, Dante Corleone.
Dante Corleone. We'll find out when they get the pads on. Like, that's the hard part right now. Like, Watley has been primarily running with the second team. Jackson and Corleone with the third team. But for that position, like, when you're in helmets and nothing else, they're not really mixing it up with the offensive line yet. So I don't want to get too heavily into it until we get to see more, until we get to really see like what live action looks like when they got pads on.
For me, the telling sign until they put the pads on is what Malik Vance said during the subathon when he was mentioning those players. So I'd say that they're making the strides needed at this point.
That's one thing we can always count on. You ask Malik a question, you're gonna get the answer, right?
Yep.
Like,
so does that mean Zach's kind of sweating a little bit anytime Malik Van's in front of a microphone?
no, because he's not going to say anything crazy. He's just going to say like what he thinks, like the truth, like what he sees.
Okay.
And he's not going to throw anybody under the bus, and he's not going to like speak out of turn.
He's been around long enough. He gets it.
He knows what he's doing. Like,
unless it's after the Notre Dame win at Notre Dame Stadium. He didn't have a bad comment, but he definitely was a little excited.
That's because he felt like Notre Dame sold him short. That
right.
he wasn't a take.
That's why I mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes it's no hard feelings. There's definitely hard feelings there.
Yep.
How has the new place kicker Ryan Coe looked so far? We touched on that earlier. Again,
haven't really kicked yet.
Looks like a linebacker.
Thick. 3 C's. Ryan Coe.
Ooh.
Well, do you guys think he'll take over? Will he be the kickoff specialist?
If he has a better leg than Alex Bales, then yeah.
Okay.
Bales was pretty solid once the season got going, like once he settled into that. So he'll have to beat out Bales.
Right.
But if he had to beat up Bales, I think he could probably Bales is not nearly as big as Ryan Coe.
Fair.
How do the players like the new helmets?
I don't know. I'll ask them.
How are they new? Are they like concussion like or something?
I don't know. I'm not in on this storyline yet, so I'll start asking around.
TBD, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Okay.
What walk-ons have earned scholarships following the end of the season? Adams, Hightower?
For whatever reason, Luke doesn't really like to put that information out there. So even when I've asked him directly, he's kind of like,
we saw the one tweeted about, though. Right? Will Adams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised if Adams is on scholarship. Like, he's worked his way into the 2 deep. That's usually how it works. If you become a member of the 2 deep or you become
it's pretty good
a like reliable contributor on special teams.
Yep.
You find your way on scholarship. But for whatever reason, Luke just likes to keep that stuff in house. Like, he doesn't like many, many other things. He just doesn't hype shit up. He's just like, that's internal business, and we're gonna keep it internal. Like, okay, your house, your rules.
Where does Mateer find snaps, if at all, this year?
Tight end.
Yeah, we kind of touched on that one already.
I just didn't know if you saw any chance of him on any type of special teams unit or anything like that.
Maybe. He would be more like punt return, like as a inline guy and punt return, or as a field goal like guy out on the edges. But we haven't seen a ton of special team stuff yet. So
if he's running 20, just put him at gunner and let him
put him at gunner. Yeah,
let him blow somebody up.
But I'm going to go tight end. Final answer.
All right.
These people all hate me.
Chad, what is your favorite season in the calendar year covering UC football?
This one. I love spring. Because, one, nobody else is there. So you get to be the eyes of the fan base. Like, I love that. Like, higher ground, yes. Higher ground is difficult because you have to drive to West Harrison, Indiana every day. And not like, spring ball, generally 3 to 4 days a week, like day on, day off, day on, day off, day on, like that type of thing. Love it. Higher ground, 2.5 to 3 weeks, every morning out to West Harrison, Indiana. I love that. Don't get me wrong. I don't love it as much as going to campus and
it's because you live on the wrong side of the river. If you were a West Sider, just saying.
I'm right on 275 up to, like, I'm not far from
still
going
the
back
way.
Of the
river.
No. Yeah. I'm in God's country.
That's why they don't wear shoes.
Shoes suck.
I believe you. Well, actually, Brent, let's kick it to you on that one. What's your favorite season in the calendar year? I know that they aimed it at Chad, but we don't play by the rules here.
I like the games themselves, because I don't get to all the practices that Chad does, but
right.
I don't know. I like towards the tail end of the, like heading into the, well, at least the last couple of years, heading into the AAC championship game where basketball is starting to influx themselves in, kind of that overlay where emotions recently have been very high and in a good way. That's probably my favorite time. So that November, tail end of November, early December. Yeah.
My favorite season is any day that's above 60 degrees where we're covering football. And preferably less than 80. Just kind of that sweet spot right there. Yeah. When you're not wearing jeans at Camp Higher Ground and sweating through them. But yeah, that would probably be my favorite season. Just in that San Diego range.
Right.
I believe you mentioned, and I think we're in the basketball range, or the basketball portion of the mailbag now. I believe you mentioned, Chad, that West saw Rayvon playing on Saturday in the state tournament. Were any of the other staff members on the road recruiting? If so, do you have any details about that?
No, they were not. I mean, remember, Rayvon played at Fifth Third Arena. So West just had to walk down from his neck, take the elevator down and see him. Right now, they're all in on getting this team ready for the tournament. And they're also, there's some weird stuff going on in the NCAA. Like, there's some rumblings that the NCAA is going to take away like 30% of the off-campus recruiting days with their new legislation that comes through. So everybody's kind of the people that actually like play by the rules are being a little leery right now of using a lot of recruiting days so that they don't end up like out in July when it's like AAU season, right? You got to kind of keep things in check right now because you're not exactly sure what the future is going to look like on the recruiting calendar. Just another brilliant decision by the NCAA to have coaches recruit less, because what we really need in the era of the transfer portal are coaches knowing less about the players that they're bringing into their program. It's fucking brilliant.
All right.
So they weren't. I don't know of anyone else that was out on the road recruiting over the weekend.
McKinley was playing there too this weekend, right? So they were on hand for.
I didn't hear if anybody was there for that game.
Okay, but I know there were a lot of talks about. A lot of talks about Rayvon. I saw your post on the board. Want to expound on that, or is it kind of just?
No, I'm just saying. There's a lot of people that instantly discredit posts on the board as like, this person doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
There's a lot of people on the board that know a lot of people around town. Is the best way I could describe it.
Yeah.
So don't take everything with a grain of salt. Sometimes, and from what I've heard, I think Cincinnati's right up there in the top 2 or 3 for Rayvon. They have done a really good job recruiting him. If I had to pick, I would say I think, or there's a good possibility that Cincinnati might be like just a little bit ahead of the pack. But you still got spring and summer AAU. Like there's still quite a bit of the process that we got to go through here. I'm just comfortable saying Cincinnati's done a pretty good job on him to this point.
All right. What do each of you think the UC should do with a potential non-NCAA tournament postseason invite? Decline or accept? Why or why not? We touched on this last week, and I think this is the best answer that anyone could have given.
Do what the players want.
Exactly.
And after the Texas two-time tango,
which thank you for the alliteration. It's beautiful.
I want them to keep playing, and
of course you do.
But only if they want to. But yeah, I mean, I think that they kind of got a good buzz, stack up a win or two here and there, get a little bit momentum heading into the postseason. I mean, to the offseason.
All right. Let's discuss Isaiah Collier, his tweet today, and Chad's quote tweet response. We did talk about the tweet briefly a little bit ago.
He was looking for attention. He got it.
Boy, oh boy, did he.
Boom.
That's all there is to discuss. That's why those kids put that up. Let's gauge how much this fan base wants me. And I think the Cincinnati fan base made their statement loud and clear.
1,847 likes, 183 retweets, 177 responses.
So what you're saying is it's a thirst trap.
Oh, it just gained another like. Look at that.
In the world of recruiting, yes, it is a bit of a thirst trap.
All right.
Do you think I'm hot? And the Cincinnati fan base was like, yeah. Sup.
You're one of the hottest that we know.
Brent, are you old enough to remember hotornot.com?
No, but I can imagine it was like Tinder before.
Kind of. I mean, but
you didn't have like the access to like.
Right, you couldn't connect with them, but you could just say if the person was hot or not.
Oh, geez. Oh, man. Interesting. Wow. No comment.
Oh my God.
The early days of the internet were wild.
Wild, Wild West, man.
Thank God Al Gorkin invented it.
Chad, your favorite recruits that you still watch that didn't commit to UC?
Man.
And Brent, if you have any while he's thinking.
Chad, I know your answer. Well, one of them.
Who?
Alex Lomax.
I was a big Alex Lomax guy. I felt that Alex Lomax was a winner. And if you've watched Memphis play of late, kind of the head of the snake is Alex Lomax doing little winner things.
Right.
That, maybe some of the other talented guys on the roster do things like dunk and make threes. But like Alex Lomax is coming from the weak side and getting a steal, digging down on a big that leads to a highlight play. Like, yeah, big. I mean, I guess I would. The favorite ever would probably be Kemba.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Hashim as well.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't have near the career that Kemba did.
Right. I mean,
not many people.
That last year was pretty wild for him.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd have to go back and really, really dig to kind of jolt my memory.
Shane
Somebody after, because you realize Shane was like at the heart of the whole Louisville scandal, right? Like he was the one that was involved with the Katrina Powell and her daughter.
Yeah.
One of my friends that's a Louisville fan described Shane after the fact as the gift that keeps on taking.
and he's a part of one of the better pictures in recent basketball with
Deion dunking
Dixon.
right on his face.
Yep.
Man, there's just so many that it's hard to like.
How about Scotty Hobson?
I mean, sure, he had a good high school or a good college career, and then he, pretty much ended up in Europe for the rest of the time. I don't know. There weren't really a lot of those guys that ever like panned out to be like, legit NBA guys. Now there's hundreds of dudes I loved that you just end up watching because you're watching this game and either future NBA star plays on the team or future NBA star plays on the other team. I got to watch Zion a good deal down at an event in South Carolina was an Adidas event that I was at. Funny thing that you mentioned Memphis, like Tyson Jolly was a kid that like I was at that. It was the same event that I watched Zion. That was the first event that he kind of like blew up. And I was like, somebody's got to get on this kid. Like this dude can shoot, like, and has got the length and can be a dude. That's another one. I mean, there's so many.
I thought is he talking like guys that were in the mix for Cincinnati that didn't end up committing, or just recruits?
Yeah, that was how I took it.
Right.
Yeah.
I
still watched it, didn't commit to
Okay.
like that. UC was recruiting and committed elsewhere.
I would say for football, the ultimate one is Joe Burrow, right?
Well, yeah, he committed. The caveat there being he committed to UC. He just
Silent verbal.
He told the coaches, but he didn't tell anybody else.
That's because Coach Orgeron told his brother to find his nuts or something like that. Like,
yeah, go find it. Hey, you need to go find his nuts. Tell him come to LSU. Go Tigers. You can't let him go to Cincinnati. You know, you gotta go Tigers.
come on down the bayou.
Come on down the bayou. We show Joe how to win.
All right, Brent. Anything to add on that? Or
Nah, we could probably go on for another 15 minutes. But let's
moving on. Hey, Chad and Chad only. What players do you think could transfer after the season?
See, you screwed yourself here, Millie. This is where you screwed yourself. Outside of Abdul Adu and Hayden Koval, I think all of them could transfer.
They could if they wanted. They really could.
They could.
Well played. Joke's on you, Millie 4S7.
Yeah, tried to get me. You got to make sure that wording is correct. You got to make sure you got the proper phrasing. Could all of them, but the two guys that can't play college basketball anymore.
Precise.
All right. And the last question in the basketball portion is David DeJulius coming back as a two guard? Can you play 22-23 season with DDJ playing 28 minutes at the two and MAW and Mike Saunders sharing point guard again?
I don't know if he's coming back at all. So
TBD.
But my guess is if he comes back, it will be as a scoring guard. That's what he is. Now, maybe that adjusts some and you have him initiate, like bring the ball up the floor. I don't know. We're going to have to see like what the roster looks like in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a week, to see what the answer of that question is going to be. And then look, like this week is the start of portal season. Because as teams lose in their conference tournaments, players start entering. Those conversations happen, and players start entering the portal. Like we are finally to where we're going to start getting some answers on who's going to be in the portal and who's not going to be in the portal. So, but if the Julius is a 2, I do think you would like some more length at the 1. But that's going to depend on how things shake out.
Right. Again, a lot of hurry up and wait. We tried something new this week. We do have a baseball portion of the mailbag. We'll see how this goes, if it's something we continue to do or not. Only had one question in there, but that question is, how are scholarships distributed in college baseball?
So I want to make sure I get this right.
Do you want to come back to this next week?
Oh, I just want to make sure I phrase it right.
Okay.
Aren't they partial?
Yeah. So every team in college baseball gets 11.7 scholarships, I believe is the number.
Yeah.
36 players to divide 11.7 scholarships is the math. Now, there are going to be a guy or two on a roster that get full or pretty close to full. But the reality is 11.7 scholarships, 36 roster spots. You got to figure out how to divvy up. This guy gets a quarter scholarship. This guy gets half a scholarship. And then they work with Pell Grants and, all the other ways to figure out like how we can get you academics, how we can get you as much money as possible. But officially 11.7 scholarships is what's allowed.
So strange. All right. And by the way, what?
Title IX.
Oh,
if you create
30,
keep in mind, and Title IX, if you create 36 baseball scholarships, one, you have to pay for them, which is still the thing I'll never understand about college athletics is you are the boss. Like you are like, why can't the school just say, if you play college athletics here, we got it. But instead the athletic department has to pay the full cost of the scholarship. But with Title IX, if you created 25 more scholarships for men's sports to cover baseball, you'd have to create 25 more scholarships for women's sports. And because they I just don't get why it's not absorbed into like the college fund. If we're going to continue to go through this farce of amateurism, which is what it is, it's a farce. Why does the athletic department have to pay the college for the scholarships?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Hey, Joe. What's up, brother?
Danco Joe, what's good, baby?
While we are here, before we move into the last portion of the mailbag, Cincinnati currently stands at 6-4. There are only 8 teams, actually 8 baseball teams in the conference. Kind of going back to that Title IX conversation. But I believe Cincinnati is currently 7th in the country in home runs, if I'm not mistaken.
They can hit. They can hit.
They're averaging something like almost 7 runs per game. Obviously, they had the win against Ohio State that we knew about.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
You mentioned going back to the Title IX discussion. What do you think Title IX is?
I know what Title IX is. I'm just saying, that's why I'm guessing that's why there's only 8 teams in the conference that have baseball teams. 8 universities in the conference. They've cut corners to not do that. That was my point with that.
Okay. I was just like, why going back to Title IX? I was confused as to where you're going with that.
Just bringing up the fact that
you clarified. I got you. We good.
Cool.
No, this team can hit. This team can really hit. They've got a young pitching staff. If you go to the YouTube page, there's a full press conference with Coach Googins to check out. That is pretty informative.
But they did take 3 or 4 over the weekend from Northwestern, and they got Indiana coming up on Tuesday, which after that they go into their first pitch invitational, which includes games against Michigan State, Kansas, and Western Carolina. So we'll see how that all starts to play out.
The Big Ten roundup.
And then I think they added a game. Like they play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I think they added a game today.
I'm just looking at the GoBearcats.com schedule. So
yeah, their Twitter added a game today. I don't know if it was part of what you said.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday was the Michigan State, Kansas, and Western Carolina. Yeah.
So then they added a couple more Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, the next game after that I see is Wofford on Tuesday. So maybe they haven't updated yet.
They added a Monday game.
Okay.
East Tennessee State or somebody that's in that cycle of wherever they're traveling.
Gotcha. Well, good on them. They're doing well at 6-4, and from everything that I've seen on social media, it seems that a lot of people are having a lot of fun attending those games, especially with the MLB kind of just getting in their own way. So,
and I would agree with this, Joe. $5 ticket, best value in town. It's a good time. I haven't had a chance to get out there this year, but my dad's talking about wanting to go to a couple games. So as long as they fit with my coverage schedule and work schedule, I'm probably going to make sure to go catch a couple games with my dad.
All right. Last couple questions here. From the Banks portion of the mailbag, do you think Xavier should fire Steele? LOL.
No.
No way.
Is his dad funding one of the practice facilities there at Xavier, though?
Yes.
So that kind of puts them in quite the pickle.
Sean Miller moved back to Cincinnati. If you didn't hear, I'm joking, but no, don't fire Steele.
Which did you find more enjoyable? UC football playing all of its home games at Paul Brown Stadium in 2014, or the UC men's basketball playing all of its home games at Northern Kentucky in 2018?
NKU. Paul Brown is just so sterile for me. It's so blah. Like, it's not a bad stadium. It's just not. There's nothing about it that stands out. Like the press room is okay. Like the stadium itself is okay. When UC plays there, at least, you know, back in 2014, like there was no chance they were going to sell, you know, 60,000 tickets and make it like a true home atmosphere because the fan base wasn't to that point yet. NKU was fun, man. That was, you know, 10,000 seat arena. The place was full. The team was good. They only lost one game there. But it was closer to my house, so I got there quicker, which, you know, I'm looking out for me. I got home quicker after the game. But that was a really, really fun season, 2018. So I would go with the NKU season.
NKU, shout out Skyline Tavern. That was before I was doing anything with the BCJ. It was Skyline Tavern before. Whoo! Walk down the hill to the game. Yeah, baby. That was fun. A lot of fun.
We did Barleycorns as kind of the unofficial BCJ pregame spot. We did that Barleycorns.
Deanna, completely agree, by the way. Gosh, imagine if the Bearcats continue having a great season and the MLB is just locked out. Be a packed house.
You definitely could see a spike in attendance and overall interest in UC baseball.
What is your favorite breed of dog and why is it a golden retriever? Sadly, Skins had to euthanize their 11-year-old dog last month. P.S. Aaron, since your mom is my neighbor in Mainville, when's the next time you're visiting? And there is a sniper gif, which is terrifying.
Yeah. I love Goldens. I'd like to. I think I'm gonna. I've never had a Golden, so I think if we get another, it would probably. I might go down the Golden road. But Labs are my number one choice.
We are in the market for a dog currently, as well as we had a dog pass away here just in the last couple of weeks, and we've been looking at shelters. Just kind of seeing what's out there, whether it be some type of mix, whether it be some type of, just as long as it's with a baby coming, probably not an aggressive breed of dog. So
right.
I think shepherds are probably out, you know, Akitas are probably out.
The problem with Goldens and kids Goldens are very personality driven. So, and you don't know their personality until, you know, they're there. Right. And you get them into like, you know, they're a year or two old. Labs are pretty mellow. Like they need a lot of exercise. They need to like walk a lot, but
I saw a couple Huskies I want to check out that are at this shelter that are like puppies.
Yeah. We had, growing up, Great Pyrenees and then, Weimaraners.
I love Weimaraners, but those are high. Those are high energy dogs.
Oh yeah. Oh, Jeter was the man though. But
Great Pyrenees have thumbs. Like those things are.
Yeah.
That's a breed, bro. That's a
Bart,
breed.
man. Bart was the man. Let's just say this: Great Pyrenees. The entire neighborhood knew, probably within a 3-mile radius, knew who Bart was because he would just roam and then.
All right.
Like, Bart's in our backyard.
Last question here is we're at 2 hours, 15 minutes. Sorry to cut you off there. R.I.P. Puppers. You're giving up to $300,000 to make one room in your house or apartment ridiculously amazing. What room do you pick and what upgrades do you make? We kind of did the same thing with the barn a couple weeks ago. I just revamped this whole basement where I had a studio to do podcasting that was soundproofed as well, and also have like a theater room on the other side of the basement here.
It would be like an office podcasting space for me.
Yeah.
Like there's like I would incorporate streaming into it so I could do some streaming and kind of continue building the content empire. But 300 grand would go a long way in
you buy a house that already has that stuff.
Buy a house and then spend the necessary $30,000 on building the streaming room.
Right. No, I'd do that. I'd get a full court basketball court. I'd do a full bar, just a full theater room, and probably have some money left over afterwards as well. So
yeah.
There was one question that came in the chat here that I wanted to touch on before we got out of the mailbag. How have the running backs looked? And that comes from Daryl Hill.
Don't know yet. No pads. Like it's really hard to get any feel when the offensive and defensive lines aren't like getting after each other. So don't have a great feel on that yet. Stay tuned. The practice reports will cover it through the next 13 practices because they have to go just helmets the first 2 practices, and then they can go spider pads, which are basically shoulder pads, but not like all the way there for the next 2 practices. And then when they return from spring break, it's full pads. So we're getting there, Daryl. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there.
All right.
Heating up, Daryl.
So that is the mailbag. Brent, we are at 2:15, 2:16. So go ahead and get us out of here.
Any last nuggets? I got to ask you guys every single time.
Nothing that popped up. Let me check. Nope. Phone's clear. We're good.
Okay. Well, then that means there's no better time for me to go ahead and sign this puppy off. Fantastic BBP yet again. March is here. Basketball is coming Thursday. I can't say night. It's right around noon.
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
ESPNU, I believe. ECU, AAC tournament. 4 games in 4 days. Who knows? But, yet again, huge thank you to Danco Transmission. Huge thank you to Aaron Smith and Chad Brendel. But this was another fantastic Bearcat Bounce podcast brought to you by BearcatJournal.com. Have a great week, guys.
See ya!